Hey folks, I'm Tom Vassell. Welcome to Crowd Surfing. This is a show in which we talk about mostly Kickstarter and the different games that are going to be on Kickstarter or on Kickstarter right now and various things if you want to kickstart something yourself. Lots of cool stuff. So we're going to jump right into it with the news. Okay, first of all, we have Hands Across the Sea. This is the second edition of this game. This game is based on Martin Wallace's A Few Acres of Snow, so kind of a deck-building war-style game, except this one takes place in the Punic Wars. It looks like they're going to upgrade the components, which I think is good, because I wasn't a big fan of the original artwork. I think it's merely okay. Incidentally, this game is made by Nightworks, who's one of the first companies to use Kickstarter way back in the day with Dark Horse. That's one of the first games I think I remember seeing on that channel. So if you like the first edition, it has a lot of positive reviews on the gameplay. This one is a new way to jump into it. Do you want some old dice? These ancient dice claim to be 50,000 years old, made of ancient kauri wood trees that have been preserved somehow, and so they're making dice. The guy making these dice said that he did it using tools only that they would have then, so there's no pips and anything, and said there's some weird lines, which, I don't know. I mean, they're like perfectly straight, those, which I don't think they would have done back then either, but who cares? If you want to own a piece of history made into dice, this is your chance. Well, here's my pick of the week already. Polite Society, the Jane Austen board game. I'm actually really intrigued by this one. Jane Austen is kind of a theme that's been done a lot, especially in movies and TV shows. Not quite as much in board games. But what I like here is these people bring things to the table, literally. They're bringing things to the table. You put them around a table when you're rolling dice. So it's kind of a similarity to Machikowo or Catan. And when you roll the numbers where they're set at the table, they're going to bring those different types of things that you can influence and things that you can use to get more people. I like the concept of it. I like the artwork. And I like the theming. It kind of looks like it's going to fit together into a really good package. A lot of people have been excited about this one, the Container 10th Anniversary Jumbo Edition from Mercury Games. Container, it's weird that it came out 10 years ago. Not a game that I really like at all, actually, but there's a lot of people who love it. So despite what I might think, this game about shipping goods and picking them up and selling them has a really deluxe version. These ships here are 7 inches long. Supposed to be one of the biggest miniatures ever in a game, which is hilarious to me. That is this dry Euro, and it is very dry. This dry Euro has some of the biggest plastic components found in any game, which is probably going to cause some people's mind to explode who hate plastic, but this game has it. So, but anyway. Ninjitsu. This is from the same company that made Scuttle. In fact, these games can fit together. You're going to draw 2 cards on your turn, or you'll play a card, or you will swipe and steal a card from someone else, which might be a trap and blow up in your face. I don't know. This game's, the artwork's okay. I like the artwork, but it seems too simple. It seems like almost like a take-that game. I'm not sure. There's some strategy mentioned, so I'll have to wait and see the whole thing. Feudum, Queen's Army. Now, Feudum was a very successful Kickstarter, late 2016. Did a lot of people back that. This one is a solo version of that, which seems to be doing pretty well too. So apparently enough people were interested in the regular game and want to get a solo version of it. The Prism, this is another dice tower. Of course, I always talk about all the dice towers. This one has a unique shape, well, kind of like a prism, and it uses the rare earth magnets to hold it together. I'm not sold on this shape. Sure, it can fit in the corner of something, but I think that the regular square dice tower is better. This one, as a prism and you put it together, it just seems like it has angles when it doesn't need to. Renegade, not the company Renegade, but there's a new game called Renegade from Victory Point Games. This is a solo or cooperative deck building game to 1 to 5 players. It's designed by Ricky Royal, who's done reviews on Box of Delights, very popular reviewer who has designed a board game. I've never heard that has done anyone any good. But it looks interesting. Victory Point Games stuff is usually somewhat lower quality with their production, but this one has a higher look to it than their stuff that they've done in the past, and their production quality has been continually going up. Out of the Woods. This is a fairy tale card game that seems to be really blowing up. where it's bringing the fairy tales to life in a very grim fashion. In fact, if you look at the artwork on these cards, they are quite gross/dark. This isn't the Cinderella and the giant from Jack and the Giant that I knew as a child, but obviously there's a lot of people who like this very, very dark flavor. Surreal Dice Tower. This is a hand-sculpted dice tower. I think I'm going to be reviewing one of these soon. Looks kind of freaky, really. You can get glow-in-the-dark dice with it. It's hand-done by the guy himself, and I guess then they're reprinting them all. He talks about how you can use it for terrain in a war game and things like that. So then we have Song of Ice and Fire miniature game. This is from Cool Mini or Not, based on the very popular George R.R. Martin series, Game of Thrones. People here, you get to play out the battles of that. Now, interestingly enough, I see some people who are saying, wow, this Kickstarter is not doing so well. At the time of me recording this, it's just shy of 900,000, which for Cool Mini or Not doesn't really compare to their 4 or 5 million ones, but it's still a lot. And you get a ton of miniatures in this game. Sam has played the game, really likes the miniature aspect of it, doesn't really care about the theme. A lot of people are going to like the theme and miniatures. You can really get a lot of stuff in this Kickstarter. You can really put out a lot of money too. We'll have to wait till when it comes out, I think, to see if this miniature game will hold up in that very competitive market of miniature games. Flashpoint Tragic Events. Flashpoint Fire Rescue, a game I really like about putting out fires. As you go in cooperatively and try to put out fire, there's hot points in that game which will explode and different things will happen. Well, here they're going to get rid of that mechanism and now have unique events that happens to kind of give the game more of a flavor, which I'm kind of interested in. Also includes more specialists, more stuff, more people to rescue, things like that. I like this game. The last several expansions have added more scenarios, but this one is something that you can kind of put into the game in total. I like the idea of the events, so that looks really neat. Also, Heroes Wanted from the same company, Indie Boards and Cards. This is another expansion for Heroes Wanted, Elements of Danger. This is more stuff. It adds elementals as a new kind of thing in the game. There's been different kinds of superpowers, and now you can, adds more heroes, more villains, more cards, new bonus cards that you can get. So just more stuff. If you like Heroes Wanted and want more cards to mix up and build different heroes and villains, they'll be here. Sakura, this is from A Games. It's really beautiful. You can see all the cherry tree pictures on it and such. I really like how it looks. And when I first was reading through the rules description, it almost sounded like Uno, play cards on top of things. But then there's different piles to play cards on, and you can use heroes. And it almost sounds like, hey, they took the basic idea of Uno and added a whole layer of strategy. Really interested in this one. I hope that it's as good as it sounds. Burger Time card game. This is based on the arcade game Burger Time back in the day, which was a really fun game. I didn't know anyone was sitting around thinking that it needs to be made into a board game. I'm a little concerned about this one. Don't care about the 8-bit artwork because it's based on an 8-bit game. I'm more concerned about the game looks like it's just a draw and play cards game. I might be incorrect. The game might be fantastic. We'll wait and see. Cthulhu Wars Onslaught 3. More Cthulhu. So much Cthulhu going on. This is more stuff for the original Cthulhu Wars game. In fact, you can buy the original Cthulhu Wars in this Kickstarter. I'm starting to think this is the only way that they're going to really be selling the game much is through each Kickstarter. This adds a new faction, the Ancients. It adds new monsters that you can have. It adds a new board. There is a new version of Cthulhu, Dire Cthulhu. You can get custom dice. And so you can get just the new stuff. You can get just the base game. You can get the base game, the new stuff, and everything. So if you want the base game and everything that comes with this Kickstarter, at $749. That's a lot of money to throw down. And I don't even think it includes all the expansion stuff from the last Kickstarter. But I found that people who like Cthulhu Wars love it. So this one, of course, is doing very well. And then finally, Defense of the Citadel. This is another game with incredibly good miniatures. It's the second time this Kickstarter was launched. The first time did not seem to do very well. But in this game, you are building a citadel that bad guys are going to come in and you're going to fight them off. Like a tower defense type of game where enemies are coming in and you fight them off. I think almost like Dungeon Keeper, except you're the good guys in this one. The miniatures look fantastic. We'll have to wait and see if the gameplay matches up with that. All right, folks, that's what I saw this week on Kickstarter. Let's keep going.
Hello, this is Kickstarter First Impressions. My name is Mike, and I'll be your host. You know, some people say that Kickstarter games are like giving yourself a haircut. You don't know what you're gonna get until you look in the mirror. Actually, nobody really said that. I just said that because I gave myself a haircut today. And my wife is gonna fix it later. Today, I'm going to show you something that I got in the mail recently, and I'm very excited about because it came from David Gerard from Junk Spirit Games, a recently published game called By Order of the Queen, a game that I have played before, and I really liked it, so I was really excited about getting this one. So let's open it and see what we have. Filler. Very well packaged. Let's open it up and see what kind of components we're working with. By Order of the Queen has a very strong and sturdy feel to it. The box is not cheap by any means. It's good, thick, and durable. The rule book is well written based on what I'm looking at. Oh, it's a By Order of the Queen coloring book. Lots of things to punch out if you like that kind of thing. The board is very thick, very well made. No bending. One of the failure points in many Kickstarter games is the quality of the cards, or should I say lack of quality. Let's open up one of these and see what we have. The cards have that nylon quality feel to them, so these are not cheap cards. The artwork looks fantastic. Also comes with a mini expansion. Lots of cool dice. And baggies. Love the baggies. Little cards as well. And up here they wrote Kickstarter edition, which is interesting because some people might get turned off by that. But luckily, it's on the packaging and not on the actual game box itself. By Order of the Queen, by Junk Spirit Games. I've played this game before, so I knew what I was going to be getting into. But whenever you play a prototype, you never know what the final product is going to be like until you actually open it up. And this is actually better than the prototype we played with. This game is definitely a game I would give a 10 out of 10 for my Kickstarter First Impressions. Thanks for watching Kickstarter First Impressions. My name is Mike. I'll see you next time.
Hey, board gamers, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, back with more Louisiana flavor. This time, I'm taking a look at Kickstarter projects that don't break your budget, but give you a little something extra. This time, let's take a look at a project that's already funded, but has plenty of time for you to jump in. Diesel Demolition Derby. This new card game from Luda Creations is designed by Matthew Dunstan. You might remember him from one of my favorite games of 2015, Elysium. He was one of the co-designers of it. In this game, Diesel Demolition Derby, it plays 2 to 6 players and takes only about 20 or 30 minutes. You're part of an underground fighting league set in the world of chaos. The players have to quickly make decisions as they look at their hand to find out which cards are going to help them build the best fighting machines and which cards you don't want to pass or it'll help your enemies. At the end of the round, score up the remaining mechs and the highest player wins that round. Win 3 rounds and you're the winner of the league. The pledge levels are easy in this one. You can grab the base game for only $19, comes with everything you see here, or you can even grab some extra scenarios for just a little more. Even if you want the full Kickstarter treatment, it's only $33. That gives you the base game, all the stretch goals, and a little bit of lanyap, those one-of-a-kind metal scoring chips. Diesel Demolition Derby combines a lot of things I like. It's got the price point, it's got a good designer, I love the mech punk theming, love the card drafting style like Seven Wonders or Sushi Go, and of course, those sweet-looking metal chips. So that's Lanyap with Diesel Demolition Derby. Hit me up on Twitter at BoardGameGumbo, tell me what you think, and until next time, laissez le bon temps rouler.
One of the things that you need, I guess, if you're going to run a successful Kickstarter, is reviews of the game. And so I thought I'd talk a little bit about that, and we'll probably continue this in future weeks. Now, a review of a Kickstarter game is a tough thing to pull off because for people like me and many other reviewers, we have all these published games that we are reviewing. To add in the literally thousands of Kickstarter projects a year to that would be really tough because there's already thousands of published games. To review a Kickstarter game is not as fun. So what I want to get into and kind of like do a little series here about reviewing, but I first want to explain why I currently don't preview Kickstarter games. There's a lot of people who do it, and that's fine, but there's several reasons why I don't do it, and I'm not saying people who do it are wrong or anything like that, not at all. But we get asked continually. We have a big policy on the Dice Tower website that we do not review Kickstarter games, and yet we get asked all the time. The main reason that I don't do it is it's just not fun for me. Now, not all aspects of even reviewing games is always fun, but for the most part, reviewing games can be a very entertaining, enjoyable thing. Is every game we review good? No, it's not. But we play enough fantastically good games that it balances out the ones that are not so good, and we definitely play more good games than we play negative games. That is not quite the same ratio as Kickstarter games. Not every Kickstarter game succeeds, and the chance of a game being bad on Kickstarter is much higher than a published game. Now, before I get on the haters, I'm not saying Kickstarter games that are published. I'm talking about ones before that are just projects that are up there. There's a lot of bad ones. And it's not always so easy to tell a game is going to be bad just from a description of it. So, I mean, we could go into it and look at it and research it and watch the videos and everything of a game to learn more about it. But then that's a whole bunch of pre-work just to see if you will review it. So it's just it not being fun. But there's some reasons for that. I like to play finished games. I like to play finished games because they're done rules-wise. I also like to play them because I like the components of them. I like to play with big plastic miniatures or cool tiles or just the whole thing being done and not any hand-drawn parts. And most Kickstarter previews there's some of them are just pieces of paper, but even the ones that are better are still kind of an alpha or beta prototyping. And they're just not as much fun to mess with those as it is to play a completely finished game. I found that people who do Kickstarter projects are much more antagonistic to some degree with the reviewer. See, if a company sends me a game to review, we'll review it on our time schedule. It doesn't have to be done Tuesday, August 16th. No, it just gets done when it needs to get done. A Kickstarter review needs to be done at a very specific time. And so we have a difficult time, sometimes getting things done at a very specific time because there's a lot going on, and that adds stress because this needs to be done. And Kickstarter projects would be sent in maybe a few days before the thing went live, and you need to play this now and get this up. And that's problematic. And the Kickstarter preview by nature needs to be positive. Now, I'll talk a little bit about that in a future one about positive versus negative Kickstarter reviews. But if you're taking money to do a Kickstarter preview, which is most Kickstarter previews you see are in exchange for money, you by nature need to have kind of a positive outlook. Some Kickstarter publishers blamed me when the game did not succeed because they thought that my review was not positive enough. And it can be hard to sit there sometimes and say, wow, this game doesn't really seem like it's that good of a game. And of course, you could play through the game and say, you know what, I can't do this. Here's your money back or what have you. But that's problematic because you worked a lot for nothing then at that point in time. And so that kind of added to the unfun. There's some, don't get me wrong, there's some Kickstarter, a lot of Kickstarter publishers are a real joy to work with. But the ones that weren't it seemed like they sent emails, this wasn't positive enough. Please take this review down. You got a minor tiny thing wrong here, so you need to redo the whole video. And it was a level of stress putting these up all the time. I remember getting emails and going, oh man, we finished it, send it off to the person. Did we talk about this correctly? And they would say no, and I want you to emphasize this. I'm like, oh man, I would never emphasize that, but okay, I'll do it here. And so there's a lot of restrictions and things placed on you while review. We just talk about what we want. And if the game's bad, we say so. And that gives a lot more freedom to us. That gives a lot more like, yes, if the game's bad, we'll say it. If the game's good, we'll say it. If the game's good but has some bad parts, we'll say it. And that's more difficult to do in a Kickstarter preview. And so because of that added stress, and because it's just not as much fun to do those, and it also takes up a good amount of time to do a Kickstarter preview, probably takes 5-6 times the amount it takes to do a review. You got to find people to play these with you, right? If you get paid to do a Kickstarter preview, you got to find other people. And some people love playing stuff before it comes out, but most game groups will get weary of that soon. Some game groups get weary of playing new games all the time, let alone new unpublished games. Now, the Dice Tower itself doesn't do Kickstarter previews, and I'll never say never. Maybe it will happen again in the future. Our biggest hang-up now, we've talked about doing it, is just that who are they going to play them with? Because I'm not going to play them. So they need to find a group of people to play them with. But even though we don't do Kickstarter previews, there are many, many people who do. There are many Kickstarter previews that are on a page. Is that good or bad? We'll talk about that next time. But let's now continue with this show.
Hi, this is Jamey Stegmaier with Stegmaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about creating content well before you launch your Kickstarter project. And I'm not talking about your game or your prototype. I'm talking about online content, whether it's a blog or a podcast or a YouTube channel. I think it's incredibly important to learn how to create effective content that connects with other people if you want to be a Kickstarter creator. I did this. I started writing a personal blog about 10 years ago, and just being able to find a good pattern of writing on a daily basis, of writing in a way that people can connect with, in that I'm adding value to them in some way. Hopefully, maybe I'm making them smile. Maybe I'm asking an interesting question that makes them think. Creating content in a way that's vulnerable to me and showing that I am human. I think that's incredibly important for a Kickstarter campaign, that you don't come across as some big stodgy company, that you come across as a human that's trying to connect with other humans that are passionate about the thing that you're both passionate about, and that's readable. Creating content that's readable, or if it's a podcast or a video, if it's watchable or listenable, it's a skill that you acquire over time. It's not something that you can just show up and do automatically. It really takes some time to hone that skill. And so creating that content well in advance of a Kickstarter campaign can be incredibly helpful. Some other quick reasons for doing it is that creating content gives you an opportunity to interact with other people online in reference to content that you're creating, which is incredibly helpful when you launch a Kickstarter campaign, because you're going to have a ton of people talking about your thing in negative and positive and constructive ways, and you have to learn how to not be defensive and just engage those people. To have another reason is to have a home base for your content. So when you tell people that you're thinking about designing a game, or that you're working on a game, and they say, hey, where can I go to learn more? If you don't have an answer to that question, that's a problem. You need to give them the website that you have some content there, whether it's ongoing content or just like a basic platform where people can go to and sign up for that e-newsletter or learn a little bit more about the project. And last, it is nice to develop a readership or a fan base in advance. It may be very, very small, but it's better than nothing, so you have a little bit of a crowd when you launch your crowdfunding campaign. So those are the reasons that I would highly recommend start building a content at a home base that you pick, a YouTube channel, a podcast, a website, well in advance of your Kickstarter campaign. Thanks.
Greetings everyone, my name is Dean and welcome to another edition of Kickstart Your Collection. Today we're going to take a look at the board game Affliction Salem 1692. And this game is all about the Salem witch trial, but there's no witches. Go figure it. It's historically accurate. It's all about arresting people and building your inner circle and confiscating property, which was the main drive of the Salem witch trials. This game is a 2 to 4 player worker placement game, plays in roughly an hour, and what you're going to do in this game is you're going to do basically 3 things. You're going to try to build your inner circle, which is going to give you more power, more influence, and possibly generate some other abilities. You're going to arrest people, which is going to give you points for confiscating their property, which is the buildings along the side, and then you also have secret grievances against certain individuals that you're going to try to either protect or arrest throughout the course of the game. The primary tools of this are going to be the player board, where you can arrest people, bring them into your circle, you can accuse people, you can generate fear. Fear will eventually limit their abilities. Accusing people is what you have to do before you can arrest them, which kind of lowers their prestige value. And then influence is what you gather to either bring people into your circle or what you spend to arrest people on the board. This is a very well researched game. The personalities from the history are there. People that have been there agree that, oh yeah, I recognize that person. Oh yeah, that person. That was a bad person. So you're playing one of the prominent Putnam Porters or Proctor families. It is a like I said, it's an hour. It's a fun worker placement game with historical theme built into it. Not something you can say every day about a worker placement game. So check it out, DPH Games. It's fully funded. It's been delivered. It's available for you on their website. That's dphgames.com. A roughly $30 price point is what I believe it's going for. Until next time, on behalf of Board Game Social and Board Game Buffet Podcasts, take care of yourselves and your loved ones.
Hello there, Crowdfundation. This week I just backed up a new game on Kickstarter. It's Down of the Archmage from Solar Flare Games. It's a skirmish / arena battle kind of game for 2 to 4 players. So in this game, each player will take the role of an Archmage from a different faction. And the idea is that you're going to battle to become the Supreme Archmage. So you're going to summon monsters and use different things to win the battles. You're going to have jewels and stones, and you can sacrifice some of your monsters to charge your stones so you can get more power. The game is really, really beautiful. As most games on Kickstarter right now, this game is fully loaded with miniatures. The miniatures look really, really awesome. The board is assembled by tiles, like similar to the tiles from Arcadia Quest. They're going to be double-sided as well, so you can put it together any way you want. So the initial pledge for this project is $69 to have the game and all the stretch goals that get unlocked. You also have a pledge of $78, and with that pledge you get a copy of their prequel game, which is Archmage Origins. If you're interested in this arena battle skirmish kind of game, of lots of miniatures, rolling dice, little tableaus, check it out, Down of the Archmage from Solar Flare Games. I'll see you guys next time.
All right, folks, that is that. Thanks so much for watching Crowd Surfing. We hope you enjoy it. If there's anything that's caught your eye in the Kickstarter community, let us know in the comments below. Tell us what you think. Until next time, I'm Tom Basso, and this has been Crowd Surfing on the Dice Tower.